What's up, guys? It's John Dominique Prize Picks. I'm here to do a review of a camera that I've been using for probably a little bit over a year now. I think I purchased it in March 2023. It is now April 2024. It's kind of overdue, but this is my review of the Olympus EM1 Mark II. Again, I had this camera for about a year now. Used just a couple of lenses with it. I mean, I've had some other lenses, but I've only used 2 lenses with this. I have to say, overall, it's been a good experience. I've come up with some good compositions with it, and I'm just going to kind of give you some pros and cons of what I've kind of experienced through the past year. Basically, yeah, it's old. I mean, considering you know how fast technology is moving, the fast pace of technology, especially in the camera industry. I think it came out in 2016 or something like that. So yeah, it's old, but it doesn't suck. You can still get good pictures out of this thing. It's not like the old technology can't take good pictures. It's a good basic camera that can be had relatively cheaply. That's its strong point, you know, comparatively speaking to other cameras that are out there now. I'm coming from Canon DSLRs, and so I switched to mirrorless with this camera, basically. So it's a little bit of a shift as far as technology and the optical viewfinder, especially going to optical to electronic viewfinder. It's different. I still prefer the optical, but you know, times change and the electronic viewfinder is good. I'm not saying it's not good and you can't use it. It's good enough. It's just something to get used to, something to be aware of. But the good things about this camera compared to the DSLRs that I've been using is that, you know, it's lightweight, so I'm more likely to carry it around with me. DSLRs are kind of like a brick, kind of a little bit more bulky. So it's more portable, easier to carry. The lenses on the Micro Four Third systems are a little bit smaller, which I really enjoy compared to the DSLRs, the Canon DSLRs I was using. I think they had APS-C size sensor. They had some good lenses. They had, you know, some good pancake lenses, good native lenses, which I was kind of happy about. I think I was stuck on the EFS 24 f2.8. I was really stuck on that lens using the Canon DSLRs, but the OMD EM1 Mark II, the lenses I've been using are the 17 millimeter f1.8 and the 45 millimeter f1.8 lenses. They serve me very well. I'm very happy. For the price, I can't complain. No, there's better lenses and there's worse lenses. So these lenses have autofocus. They're both pretty good lenses. Also tried, but I didn't try it on this camera. I did try a Panasonic 30 millimeter f2.8 macro and a Panasonic Leica 25 f1.4. Those lenses were kind of big, I'm not gonna lie. I was using them on a EM10 Mark I, and it kind of defeated kind of the purpose of Micro Four Thirds. To me, is like the portability, the small form factor. That's what I'm going for. It's just my style. It makes things easier for me. I do a lot of walking, so I need something that's going to be lightweight and portable, and this fits the bill very good. Now the EM1 Mark II, though, I'm not going to lie, this is kind of heavy compared, relatively speaking, to some other, even some DSLRs. This is a heavier camera, but I only had this was my primary. I had a backup at EM10, which died on me maybe a few months ago, so that's why I'm using this now as my primary camera, and that's kind of unfortunate, and I'm just kind of getting used to carrying this thing around with me everywhere all the time. I've accommodated my setup, so I'm doing that more often now. So I get out and shoot. you know, I'll kind of have to suck it up, you know, first world problems, I guess. But yeah, this is my everyday camera now, everyday carry camera. You know, I might have enough bags now to accommodate, and I've kind of shopped around and kind of see what fits and what suits my style. So I'm able to accommodate, I'm equipped to accommodate smaller cameras and even bigger ones compared to this one. I also tried, like, you know, the Sony Nex line of cameras at one point early in my career, and it was good. I'm not gonna lie, I liked the, I think it was the FX3 or something like that, or Sony Nex F3 Nex, I can't remember. The only thing I didn't like about that was that not enough native lens selection. I like to use native lenses because I think they work best on these camera systems. And you know, they had good lenses, I'm not gonna lie. They were a little bit on the more expensive side compared to what you get with Micro Four Thirds. And you know, you got third-party lenses, which are all good, but I'm gonna stick with native glass. That's just me, because that autofocus is the best, and it's just, you get the best all-around performance out of the native lenses. And I'm all about lenses. And the Micro Four Thirds lens selection is really huge. It's got a huge library. I mean, it runs the full sweep of everything you can think of. But, you know, I just needed these two lenses that I'm using now basically do the job for me. That's just my style. I've grown to shoot, what, like around 35 or 38 millimeters, and then like 80 to 90. So I shoot like two different focal lengths, and I just use prime lenses. I don't really use zooms too much. So I basically mostly shoot street photography, travel photography, candid stuff, some event photography, and one part that I do a little bit of is landscape. And that leads me to one of my first cons with this EM10 or EM1 and the EM10. I'm not gonna lie, both of them kind of had this problem. The part of it that's not so good is the sensor. When you go to do post-production, you get like this banding in the pictures, like in the sky. If there's just a plain blue sky, you can see banding. So I don't recommend this camera that much for landscapes, and that's the reason. Now, I'm not gonna say it's always there and it's always an issue, depending on the picture and just on the circumstances and which lens you're using. Some people say they don't get any banding at all, but I've experienced that, and I don't use. That's why I don't recommend this camera for landscapes if you're doing strictly landscapes. Yeah, the dynamic range, the noise are not as good as the bigger sensor cameras, larger sensor cameras, but it's good enough. It's a noticeable upgrade from your cell phone or a little point and shoot with a, you know, 1.17-inch sensor or whatever. So basically you need to ask yourself if it's worth it. And I asked myself for this camera, I'm gonna try it out and see what happens. If you're a professional, I don't think this is the camera system for you, this compact camera system, Micro Four Thirds. I mean, there are some professionals who use it, but you can get something better for the money a lot of times if you're smart and you know what you're doing and you have connections. Yeah, for us people who don't have the budget like that, I think this is a good beginner system to get your feet wet into interchangeable lens system. Micro Four Thirds is great. But again, it takes a little, in my experience, it takes a little bit more post-production to get the pictures to look really, really good. So just be aware of that. That's just my experience. I don't know what programs other people use, but I use Snapseed, and I enjoy the process of post-production. Not everybody does. Some people just want JPEGs. The JPEGs on here are pretty good. They have really good colors. I enjoy the colors on them. I don't use JPEGs. I shoot raw, strictly raw. That's what I do. That's how I've always done it. I don't know if I'll change in the future. Maybe some black and whites. They have some good black and white profile in here, so sometimes I do use that, but mostly raw, and I always edit. Snapseed was what I usually use. Dabble with Lightroom, but Snapseed is my main tool. But I'm basically, my thing is to get a few. Handling is really excellent. I can't lie to you guys. Now, it's worth it to me. It's a little bit bulkier, but it has a grip, and the grip is super comfortable. I really like it. Now, when I first, before I knew any better, I was going the on and off switch. I was using this for the on and off switch, but I customized it to make it this switch back here for the on off switch. And that to me is priceless, because the flip of a thumb, I don't have to use a second hand to turn the camera on and off. I can just flip it up with my thumb. And one-handed operation, to me, the convenience of this is really blowing my mind. It never really thought it would be a big deal, but the more I use it like this, the more I was like, wish I should have tried this before, man. Like a long time ago. I wish I had known this. I just wanted to try. I did actually try it one time, and for some reason, I don't think I liked it or something. I can't remember. But then when I went back to it the second time, it really enhances the grip on the camera. Like you don't have to let go, and you get a solid grip. Like this finger here is ready to, like the way the shutter button is kind of protruded a little forward, that thing's ready to push at any moment. Like it's really excellent. And it's really comfortable. The thumb grips, like you have a wheel here and a wheel around the shutter. You can assign those to what you want. I think I have this one around the shutter to aperture. And I guess the other one in the back can be programmed to shutter speed. The dials are really good, and it's really tactile. You have a button for almost everything. So that's a really good part of this camera, the handling. It's really great. The comfort, I just can't stress how grippy this thing is. Like I'm just in love with how, like you can't let go of this thing. Like you can't, very unlikely to drop it, and very comfortable grip basically. And a customizable on-off button, that's like a godsend to me. The convenience of one-handed operation. Weather sealed body, magnesium alloy. It's a bit heavy, but it's manageable. So that's another good thing about this camera. I'm disappointed a little bit in this peeling rubber piece. Like here, I'm a little bit mad. Like it's starting to peel right here. I don't know if you can see this, but like right here on the edge, when I take it in and out, put it in and out of the camera bag, it gets worse and worse. And this is gonna like peel off. I don't like that. It's getting worse and worse. If you can see right here, I try to put it back, but it's not sticking. So that's one thing I'm disappointed with. And I'm not gonna lie, the EM10, the back thumb grip broke. It fell off on the EM10. I just chiseled the rest of it off and just left it off because it's not a big deal, but it's a little annoying, I would think. And for this camera, and this camera, I would think because it's weather sealed and the price premium, like that wouldn't happen. So that's a little disappointing, but not a big deal, not a deal breaker by any means. Otherwise, the camera is very robust. The flip screen is very nice. It handles good. It doesn't feel like it's gonna break. The swivel action on it is really good, and you can get like different, yeah, the swivel action is really good. I like the tilt screens mostly, but since my EM10 died, I didn't actually replace it, so I'm stuck with the swivel screen, which is okay. It's not a big deal. I can use it and get by with it. It's just not the best for my style of street photography. I think the video does 1080p. I don't know if it does 4K. If it does, I won't use it because my equipment it's not really good enough, or what do I want to say? It's not capable really of handling that type of high resolution video. Like it'll stutter after a while. So I know I'm gonna stick to 1080p. I'm not that big with video anyway, to be honest with you. I like video, it's okay, but I'm more strictly pictures. But it's good to know that it does do good video, and it's got good tracking, and it's got phase detect autofocus in video, which is really helpful. So I'm very happy with that. With the video side, But again, the 4K is going to be too much to edit on my lowly iPad or iPhone. Like, I don't think I'm going to venture into that for a long time until I get the equipment that's basically that can handle it. Basically, it's got a mic jack, which is good. I don't think I've used it yet. It's got a mic jack and a headphone port on the side here. If you can see, this is the headphone, I think, and this is the mic jack, or vice versa, I guess. But I haven't used them yet. I use just the inbuilt audio on this, and it's good enough for me. I'm not trying to get too fancy with it. I prefer to keep things simple. So that's a good thing about that camera. And there's, again, mostly dials for all the controls, which works out really great. It's very tactile, and I like that tactiles. For some reason, the dials and the switches, to me, makes a big difference. In comparison to like maybe some other cameras. I tried the Sony Nex line, and you know, they take good pictures, but you have to do a lot of menu diving if I remember correctly. I don't know if that's still the case with their newer bodies, but that was the case with the older bodies, and that's kind of one thing that turned me off to Sony. You know, Sonys are still good cameras. I'm not knocking them, not trying to take away any points from them or anything like that. Another good thing about this camera is the battery life. Hey, I'm really big on battery life, coming from DSLRs especially. Like, I'm walking around all day, I'm taking a day out, and I'm walking miles. And that battery life, it better last, dude. I got 2 batteries. They give me about 500 pictures for 1 battery. And I rarely go through 2 batteries. I mostly just do 1, but I keep 1 as a backup for a spare, which is really great. I'm happy with the battery life on this camera, because I know a lot of mirrorless cameras, battery life ain't that great. And that's one of the things that turned me off to mirrorless. I was like, I'll stick with DSLRs. I stuck with them for a while until I got this guy. The lens selection, the Micro Four Thirds lens selection has got the hugest lens selection. So that's one of the better things about the OMD EM1 Mark II. Got a nice lens selection. The price nowadays is great. You can get them pretty cheaply, about $400 or $500, I want to say, which is a good price in my opinion for what you get. And the abundance of these cameras now, they're all used on the secondhand market. That's helping kind of keep prices down. And you know, I don't need the latest and greatest technology. I just need something basic to get me by. So that's kind of my thing. Some people are different. So whatever fits your budget, you go for what's going to suit you. That's my opinion. Do what's going to be best for you. But for me, I think this is a good choice. Now, there are some drawbacks with the OMD systems. You know, they switched owners or something like that, and the company is now, it's not Olympus anymore, it's OMD Systems. So no one knows what the future is going to bring for them. They kind of, to me, they look like they stopped making those smaller little cameras, and now they're making the big cameras bigger, and that's not what I'm trying to go for with my style. So I might jump ship eventually. So in the future, just know that we don't know what their intents are, if they're going to continue to develop the smaller system cameras and lenses or what have you. So you don't know what's going to happen. They might, go bankrupt. I don't know. They might not exist anymore. So if they discontinue their line of cameras, you just kind of have to be good with that. You have to kind of understand the risk that if you buy one of these cameras, that's a possibility. Other con for me is that even the flip screen, whatever resolution it is, it's difficult to see in bright light. Like when you turn it on in the full bright sun, and I'm trying to trying to get fancy and use the screen, kind of tilt the screen so I can do a portrait orientation, and then try to get low or something. It's hard to see the screen. It's so many reflections. It's very difficult. So I don't know if it's just me or what the deal is with that, but that's one of the other things, one of the cons of this camera to me. And another con is that the autofocus is average. It's not great. It's not the best. It's not the worst either. It's just average. It's in the middle. It's mostly accurate, but it can hunt a little bit. Like, it could take a while to lock focus, especially using the 45 f1.8, because I think that has like a longer range that the motors have to travel for it to actually get to lock focus. So I think that might be contributing to it. And I'm using that lens a lot. That's like stuck on this camera mostly. I do use a 35 every now and then. That one focuses a lot quicker. It's a breeze and it's pretty accurate for the most part, but it's not as good as a DSLR. Coming from a DSLR, you'd almost be disappointed with the autofocus on these mirrorless cameras almost. At least from my experience with the Micro Four Thirds system. The Sonys were okay sometimes. For the most part, they have the ones that I use, the Sony FX3 or whatever, or 3FX, I can't remember, Nex 3FN or Nex F3, something. You know, autofocus was good on that one. I think they've made a lot of improvements though in the Sony line. So if you want really good, reliable autofocus, yeah, you would want to go with Sony. But again, I have to weigh my pros and cons. Overall, I'm happy with the Olympus EM1 Mark II. This has been my go-to camera for the past year, basically, and it's been doing me right. Overall, it's a good experience, and I would recommend this camera, like, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it like a 7.5. You know, there's better and there's worse, but for me, this has been doing the job very well. I'm very happy with it. This is my review of the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II. John Dominique Prize Picks.